thank you to the promoters. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And I talk about how the spatial planning system works in Italy. And in this short presentation, I'd like to talk about three aspects. The first one is focused on the law sources in Italy about spatial planning, and I anticipate that we have both national and regional law sources. In the second part, I talk about the most important spatial plans and their mutual relation, and finally, the third part is focused on the last frontier of the spatial planning activity in Italy, so the urban regeneration. I have written just one slide on this last aspect, the number 3. So we can start with the part 1, which are the law sources in Italy about the spatial planning activity. First of all, I'd like to underline that according to our Italian constitution and specifically to Article 117, paragraph 3, we use the expression land use planning, and according to this article, land use planning is a concurring legislative matter between the state and the regions. So what does it mean? It means that the state has the power to adopt some laws about special planning activity, but these laws are just a model, establish some guidelines for the regional laws. So that's a shared, a concurring matter. But as I said before, land use planning, what does it mean, this expression? Why Article 117 in our Constitution uses this expression? Until 2001, our Constitution used a different expression, used the expression urban planning activity. After 2001, we had a very important constitutional reform that changed this expression. What's the difference? Why today our constitution uses the expression land use planning, and why before 2001 it used the expression urban planning? Urban planning is a less mature and less wide expression, because the expression land use, the urban planning expression is a less wide and less mature expression, because urban planning activity includes just the interest to build an organized city center and organized urban areas. Otherwise, the expression that is actually used, land use planning, is a more mature and a wider expression that includes not only the interest to build an organized city center, an organized urban area, but also consider some other interests that cross the urban planning activity. These other interests are the landscape interest, the environmental interest, the cultural interest. These interests are very sensitive and they need to be protected through specific spatial plans. And the expression urban planning was not able to consider and to include also these other sensitive interests that are part of the spatial planning activity. That's the reason why in 2001 our constitution was changed, and Article 117 today uses the more inclusive and more extended and wider expression land use planning, which considers also these other interests also from a planning point of view, obviously. And after this constitutional framework, we can analyze the legislative law sources in our legal, in the Italian legal system. First of all, we have just one national law source. Please note that this law source was published in 1942. It's the law number 1150 of 1942. And we are in the Second World War, so that's the reason why this law uses the expression urbanistic planning activity. That's the national law, the general national law of urbanistic, of urban planning activity, and this law is still valid. This law was modified in some parts during the years. Some parts were abolished, but it's still valid, and it's still a model for the regional laws, because it establishes some guidelines that regional laws have to respect. And according to this law, the municipality, I underlined it in yellow, the municipality is the main level for the urban planning regulation. So thanks to this law, for all the past century, the municipality was the real protagonist of urban planning activity in Italy, because the municipality was meant to adopt the urban plan. The urban plan was the protagonist of urban planning activity in the 20th century. And how was this urban plan adopted, and how it's still adopted today? Through a very hierarchical proceeding. According to law number 1150, the urban plan was adopted by the municipality, but it was approved by a hierarchical superior public body. According to law number 1150, the public body that was supposed to approve the urban plan was the Department of Public Works, so a national public body. Today, according to all the regional laws, the urban plan is adopted by the municipality, but it's approved by the region. So that's the only difference, but the method is the same, a very hierarchical method for the definition and the approbation of the urban plan. But what about our regional law sources? From the 70s, the state delegated to the regions the legislative competence to adopt some laws on urban planning and spatial planning activities. So the 70s is the decade of the delegation of competencies in this subject from the state to the regions. And what about our regional laws on spatial planning? We can divide this period in 3 different seasons, or if you prefer, in regional laws of 4th generation, 2nd generation, and 3rd generation. Regional laws of 4th generation are go from the second half of the 70s to the first half of 80s. In this period, regions started to adopt their own laws on spatial planning. We have a second season that goes from the first part of 80s to the first part of 90s. In this second part, regional laws started to consider also other sensitive interests that are landscape interest, environmental interest, cultural interest. And they start to consider this interest together with the urban planning activity. But we have a 3rd generation law sources. In this case, the regional laws are adopted from the first part of 90s until today. And according to this 3rd season, regional laws started to build their laws demanding that the urban plan is divided in 2 parts, and it's still valid today. We have regional laws that request to the municipalities to adopt an urban plan that is divided in 2 parts, the structural part and the operative part. The structural part is the part of the invariants, and it establishes the area where it's allowed to build and the area where it's not allowed to build, for example, while the operative part is the dynamic part of the urban plan, and it lasts for 5 years, and then it needs to be modified or changed. And it establishes how to realize the rules that were established, that are established in the structural part. But please note that in all these seasons, the municipality remain the real protagonist of the urban planning activity in our country. But we can indicate also a fourth generation regional laws on urban planning activity. But just one law is part of this fourth generation, and this region is the region of Emilia-Romagna. Emilia-Romagna is the region of Bologna, which adopted in 2017 a very innovative law on spatial planning activity. And this law is very innovative, is very new for one specific aspect, because it establishes a more incisive negotiation between public bodies and private in urban planning activity. Urban negotiation has been used since the 50s of the last century in Italy, but according to all the other laws on planning activity in Italy, according to the other regional laws, negotiation between public and private is used only to execute the provisions established in the urban plan. So according to all the other laws, the urban plans, so the public body establishes rules, and the negotiation is functional to execute these provisions. On the contrary, this regional law of fourth generation establishes that the negotiation between public and private is used to make a co-decision. The urban plan is established by the municipality, but this urban plan is a very flexible tool. What does it mean? It means that it establishes just some aspects of urban planning activity. For instance, it establishes where it's allowed or not allowed to build something, but at the same time, the decision about the building rights is delegated to an agreement between public and private. So we can say that the effects of the urban plan are co-decided. There's a sharing decision between public and private. So the negotiation in this case is much more incisive than in the other regional laws. So that's the particular aspect of this law. But please note that during all these years, the municipality has been the protagonist of the urban planning activity. But today the urban plan by the municipality is less important than in the past for some specific reasons. Which are these reasons? Why the urban plan by the municipality has lost part of its importance and strength in the spatial planning activities, because we start to protect and value also some other interests that cross the urban planning activity, but these other interests are very sensitive and they need to be protected. They need to be protected through some specific special plans. And these specific special plans are adopted by other public bodies that are superior to the municipality. And the consequence is that the municipality and the urban plan by the municipality have to respect, have to obey, must respect, must obey these other provisions that are established in other special plans. Due to the necessity to protect and value these other sensitive interests that are different from the interest to build an organized city centers. And which are these other these sensitive interests that need a stronger protection. These other interests are interests that are protected also in accordance with some national laws. National laws indicate the competent public bodies, national or regional public bodies, to protect these interests. And these interests are, for example, the environmental interest, the cultural interest, the landscape interest, and the protection soil and water interest. So the legislative, the national parliament promoted during the years some laws to protect these interests, and these interests are still protected through specific plans. And these specific plans, for example, are the park plan. The park plan is the park that is adopted to safeguard a protected areas, for instance, so to protect the environment. And then there's the basin plan. The basin plan is adopted by the basin authority to protect soil and to limit the soil sealing. In Italy, we have 8 national basin authorities, and the most important plan, spatial plan, is the landscape plan that is adopted by each region in agreement with the Department of Culture, because according to our national legal system, landscape is part of the cultural heritage. And these are the reasons why the urban plan by the municipality has lost part of its importance, because of this sensitive crossing interest that must be considered in the planning activities. So the consequence is that the municipality and its urban plan are limited by these interests, that are protected through these other special plan, and these special plans prevail over the urban planning activity. So, but which is the main, which is the most important and the main spatial planning? Which is the relation between these special plans? Is there a hierarchical order between these, among these plans? Theoretically, the landscape plan should be considered the most important, because, as I said before, landscape is considered part of the cultural heritage, and as you know, we care a lot about our cultural heritage. So the landscape plan should be considered the most important one, also because it is adopted by the region, but in agreement with the Department of Culture. But at the same time, we should consider that each of these special plans, each of these spatial plans protect a specific interest. The park plan protects the environmental interest, the landscape plan protects the cultural interest, and the basin plan protects the soil and water interest. So I just want to say that these plans should be connected. They should be adopted according to a very important principle that we call principle of loyal collaboration. What does it mean? It means that if a region, for example, wants to adopt or modify its own landscape plan, it's supposed to ask for some advice or for some information to the park plan, to the park body, for instance, just to individuate the right way to consider the environmental interest inside the landscape plan. So these plans are not connected with a strictly hierarchical relation, but they should consider under a perspective that is based and built on the loyal collaboration. Anyway, what's the result of this system? That we have a huge crisis for the urban plan by the municipality, because it has lost part of its autonomy and part of its power because it must to respect and follow the provisions established by these other spatial plans. And so we can join the last part of the slide of my presentation. Number 3, the last frontier of spatial planning, the urban regeneration. Is there the possibility to revitalize the urban plan by the municipality? Yes, there's this possibility, but just to consider 2 goals. Recycle of urban heritage that is abandoned and preserving the soil system. According to this strategy, that is a very important challenge also for the municipality, the urban plan can benefit of a revitalization system. I think I finished my time, so maybe we can also discuss in this aspect in the discussion. I thank you very much. I thank you very much for your attention, and I finish it. Thank you.